Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures at Outperform. I'm Frank Wander, the founder and CEO of People Productive, a company that helps organizations outperform without burning people out. And I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Terri Mays, a certified culture engineer who's an expert on how to get the best out of people in any culture. So today we're going to be covering what science says about workforce motivation. We cover the human factors of leadership here. Everybody should understand what makes people tick, how to get the best out of people if you're a leader, how to influence coworkers. Come to this channel, you'll find out everything you need to know. This is a very important topic, and I think one that many people still get wrong, quite honestly. Leaders haven't studied this heavily. We'll look at various methods that have been studied that really show you how you can increase workforce motivation. There are intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. We'll be focusing mostly on intrinsic. Those are the ones that drive people internally. Extrinsic ones are money. Turns out not to be a great motivator, but it's a demotivator when it's too little, that's for sure.
Yes.
You go back and look at the work of Hertzberg, called them hygiene factors in the environment, demotivators, and if they're not present. Anyway, Terri, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, we're all kind of hardwired to have our motivational boxes ticked. So we talk about all of the human needs, and we've gone into great lengths about this, talking about basic human needs. Everybody has them. So it's not just that there's a certain group of people, or that, people like to pick on millennials and say that they're needy in the workforce. But the truth is, we all are. We all have those basic needs. Millennials were just the first ones to kind of stand up and demand it. But we all have those needs. We all have needs that need to be met in the workplace if we want to truly motivate people in a positive way. A lot of times managers have perfected the art of demotivating people. They are using things that they think, this old way of thinking where people just show up to work and they do the job because they're told to do the job. That way of thinking has gone away. People don't really work like that anymore. So you need to find those things that motivate people to do their best, to be their best. And by far, there are some things that you can look at. But by far, there's one thing that comes to mind for me is just having work that's meaningful, doing things that matter. If you are giving people a bunch of things that don't really matter, it's just busy work, it's just keeping them occupied during the day, people know that. They can feel and sense when something is not quite right with the assignments. If the assignments don't really have a purpose or a meaning, then it's going to be difficult to get people motivated to do it.
Yeah, man, they see through that right away. Meaning is one of those things that, humans have to be moved emotionally by something to get excited about it. And so meaning has different meanings for different people. But at the end of the day, you've got to create meaning as a leader for your people. You've got to find out who the people are, what makes them tick, what they think about, what they like, what they dislike. And you've got to show them how the work you're doing connects to something that matters to them. And so you got to get to know your people, and that way you can help uncover meaning. Now, one of the things that they found consistently motivates people is small wins. So you could go look up a famous study. It's a Harvard Business Review study. Teresa Mabile and one of her co-authors did a paper. It's in Harvard Business Review. They've studied teams over many, many, many years. I think they looked at people from 7 companies. They looked at diary entries from 238 different people. And what they found was that the people felt best on days where they had accomplished something, some small win. So that's why you really want to break work down into smaller pieces so that people make progress. And that power of daily progress keeps people motivated and in the game. If you're constantly working and there's nothing to show for it, it's a disaster. It really, really is. No motivation out of it.
That's right. You want to feel like you have that sense of accomplishment, like you came to work, you showed up, you made some sacrifices while you were there. A lot of times it's a struggle to keep that work life balance, but you want to feel like those sacrifices matter, that they mean something at the end of the day, that you're sacrificing for a good reason and not that you're just sacrificing your life balance for nothing. So that's really important to people.
Yeah, Dan Ariely did a study at Harvard University where they paid people a certain amount of money to build like Lego models. And they paid him $3 for the first and then 270 for the second. I forget the exact numbers. But they would take the model and show it to them, do nothing with it, maybe put it under the table, and then they changed the study. And they essentially had a professor just after they were done thank them and break the thing down right away in front of them. And so they got much more meaning out of the fact that model was completed. And even though it wasn't used for anything great, it was just put under the table versus the one that was broken down. So it was a meaningless exercise. Those people put many more together. They were more motivated to do it. So the ones whose item just got broken down, the meaningless work, they obviously dropped out much faster. And so you see this all the time. This is why you got to create meaning for people. It just really, really, really matters.
It really does. And, thinking about meaning, that meaning bleeds over into people being fulfilled and having joy when they're working. So when I'm doing something that I know matters and I can care about it and get behind it, it brings me a great deal of joy to know that I've had a part to play in something that matters. So having people be joyful at work. They're excited about the work they're doing. They're not dreading Monday mornings. They're looking forward to going to work because they get a chance to do some things that matter and make a difference. That brings a great sense of joy. And you want to inspire joy in your employees. You don't want people that are just doing the bare bones minimums to get by. You want people to be excited about what they're doing, especially in this age of innovation. And we talk about this, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's just so true. It is so absolutely true that if you want people to be in that creative headspace where they can innovate and think outside of the box and the constraints of doing things the way they've always been done, you have to have a creative, inspiring environment. You have to have an environment where people feel free to share ideas and to fail often and quickly and learn from those mistakes, but to also bring some joy and excitement, some passion to the work that they're doing. If they're just feeling like, this is just going to be the same old, then they're not going to really be innovative or be creative and think about how we can do things in a better way. And sometimes, innovation is not just about doing something brand new. Sometimes it's about how can we be more efficient? How can we better use the resources that we have so that we're able to do more with what we already have?
Yeah, and there's no question, people want to be challenged and feel meaning in the work. That's the only way you're going to get innovation. So let's look at another study here by Airily. They did one at MIT. And essentially what they found out is that the less appreciated people felt for the work, the more money they wanted to do it. And there's a very simple experiment where they had people circling matching pairs of letters on sheets. And, people whose work was shredded needed twice as much money as those whose work was acknowledged in order to keep doing the task. So the less appreciated we feel for our work, the more money we want to do it. So there's motivation, that appreciation. People are motivated to do it. They feel appreciated. Nice little study. I think that tells you a lot right there.
Yeah, it's so true. There have been times when I worked really hard on something, and in the midst of it, you realize that, hey, we're going down a path that we need to come back and course correct. We thought this was the right thing to do, but now it's not. And so I've had to go back and do some rework or change things up and go down a different path. And, working with the leadership team or working with peers, we come up with a new solution and approach. And, those times when I have gone down the path and we realize as a team, hey, we need to change course correction. It wasn't so big of a blow as those times when we were just kind of aimlessly wandering down a path. We
Yeah,
didn't have
isn't that
any
the worst?
vision, no direction. Leadership is disengaged. The we're just kind of doing the best we can, doing whatever we think we should be doing, to be told, oh no, don't do it that way, do it this way. That is like my one of my biggest pet peeves. Like,
Yep.
give me direction and help me along the way. But if I go down the path and you don't help me and you don't tell me anything you want, you lose all rights to critique what I've done.
That's
You
right.
kind of have to take what you get at that point.
Oh yeah, the famous thing, "Hey, go somewhere." Or, "I'm going for a
Yeah,
drive, I went over here." "No, no, no, I didn't want you to go there." "Well, you didn't
exactly.
bother telling me what you wanted."
Exactly. So you do
Yeah,
want to give some guidelines and constraints, and all of those things are just helpful for people to feel like they're not wasting their time. That's what this all boils down to. There's many different ways to say this, but people just don't want to feel like they're wasting time doing meaningless things that don't matter to anybody, that's just going to be discarded or tossed to the side. There are times when I've spent a great deal of effort and time and energy on something only to realize we needed to change. And it's okay, because I didn't feel like I
mhm,
wasted my time, because we were trying to do something new. And so anytime you're doing something new, you're going to find yourself on a path where you're like, wait a minute, this may not be the exact path I need to be on. And that's okay, because anything you learn as you're doing something new is going to add to the ability to get to the finish line.
it's part of the compass to get you where you gotta go.
It is absolutely part of the process. So
Yep,
you want to use that to your advantage and keep people highly motivated on your team, so that they're not frustrated and angry and bitter because they have leaders that don't have vision, or that can't just have the good sense to get out of the way and let them do it. That's been another flaw of leadership, feeling like they have to dictate every move, especially in innovation and in being creative. You need to give people that space. Just get out of their way and let them do it, and you'll be
yeah.
surprised what they come up with.
You can't dictate innovation, it's absolutely impossible, right? Innovation's a
Right.
process of discovery, so it can't be dictated
That's
at
right.
all. But, let's take a look at some more research. We'll get back to this, The Power of Small Wins by Teresa Mabile. They studied these people and they found that there were really three types of activities, right? There were catalysts, actions that directly supported the work, including help from a person or group, nourishers, which were events such as shows of respect or words of encouragement. And then you had the opposite, which were inhibitors, which is a failure to support or active things that actively hindered the work, like Terri was talking about, or toxins, discouraging or undermining events. So, in addition to the progress itself, we have these catalysts and these toxins and inhibitors that are going on. So, they found that on people reporting a really good day, 76% reported making progress, 43% of them, it was really catalysts, 25% nourishers, and what do we find there? On a bad day, 67% of the people reported a setback, 42% reported inhibitor, and 18% reported toxic type activity. So
Mm.
you can see what the demotivators are right away. And this is research. You should go download that paper, the power of small wins. I think it's a great study. Anybody who's got teams of people doing work, you should use that to regulate the work and activity, to give feedback and guidance. It's science. It's one of the most powerful things you could take a look at. And I really think you should dig that out. Just go online, type it in, Power of Small Wins, Amabile. You'll see it, Harvard Business Review. Great study. Absolutely one that is at the top of the list if you want to understand how to motivate teams of people to get work done.
Yes, absolutely.
So, look, there's so much information out there on motivation, how to motivate people. It's science. You've got to create the meaning. You got to create the progress. You got to get out of the way. You got to empower them. You got to make sure the level of challenge is appropriate. If they're overly challenged, they're going to feel like the mountain's too high to climb. That's a demotivator. So, getting the challenge right, getting people, encouraging them, giving them all the positive accolades along the way as they make progress, these nourishers and things that you have to do. You could see that there's a very clear science behind all this. So, I hope this motivates you personally to go dig into this topic and learn a little bit more. This is a really good place to start. This gets you heading in the right direction. We're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock covering other human factors of leadership. We've been looking into different scientific experiments and what science and research tells us. I think you should go look at the prior episodes. They're highly informative. And if you want to become a great leader of people, if you want to be a great coworker, you really have to understand these human factors and put them to work. You can't believe how powerful this stuff is. It's amazing what you can get done when you understand how to lead people in a way that you tap into their kind of inner desires and drives and motivations. And it will get you further than just about anything else. So please be sure to tune in next week at 3 o'clock. We'll be here with another great episode. If you're joining us on YouTube, please, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell, make sure you get notified every time we post an episode, which is also posted weekly there if you missed the live episode. But we really do thank you for joining us and hope to see you soon.
Yes. Bye for now.